Friend, Shabbat Shalom again. I'm delighted to be able to speak with you this evening, and I thank the congregation for giving me this privilege. On Tuesday evening, I lectured at Rockhurst University in Father Tom Curran's class on Catholic social teachings. The goal of his class is to examine how Catholic doctrine and church teachings should guide these students in confronting the injustices and challenges of our society. My lecture addressed the fundamentals of Jewish social ethics. What are the essential values that guide Jewish ethical decision-making globally in our individual lives? He extends this invitation to me every year so that the students are exposed to another religious tradition that has ethical approaches that in some ways Catholicism and yet are different. Different religious traditions have different assumptions, and the class is how one tradition can enlighten an understanding of another faith tradition. It is not a question of being one religion being superior to another. That would be a very silly exercise. No religion is superior to another. The goal is the affirmation that we can learn from each other. Father Curran encourages the students to visit the synagogue, and I believe that their engagement with me and with Judaism broadens their perspective and even enriches their commitment to their faith. And for the record, not all students are Roman Catholics. Allow me to use an example of religious exploration of other faiths that can enrich us. And I'm going to be very specific about a very specific part of Jewish tradition. 6 months and 7 days from today is Yom Kippur. The issue of fasting is an essential part of Yom Kippur. How many people fast on Yom Kippur? Growing up, fasting was the central occupation of Yom Kippur, and I remember in our congregation, my parents figuring out, really my mother trying to figure out who was fasting and who wasn't. Who ate and who didn't was always being discussed. According to recent studies, 46% of American Jews fast. And I would venture to say that the majority of our members do not keep the fast. And some have even dismissed this practice as irrelevant. That is the freedom of Reform Judaism, of course. Yet I find that attitude to be curious. The Torah is quite specific about the fast in Yom Kippur. In Leviticus 23, verses 27 through 32, Yom Kippur is very distinctly described. Mark, the 10th day of this 7th month is the Day of Atonement. It shall be a sacred occasion for you. You shall practice self-denial. Indeed, any person who does not practice self-denial throughout that day shall be cut off from his kin. Not part of the community, really alienated from God. Yom Kippur of ancient time had no Kol Nidre night, no Unatana Tokef, no Al Chet, where we do the list of sins and we chant the Al Chet, no Yizkor, the part of the service where we remember our deceased. Instead, self-denial was central. The rabbis interpret this as food and drink, no food or drink for 25 hours. Literally, by denying our bodily needs, we can focus on our souls and our inner life. Last Shabbat, the evening of April 1st, the fast of Ramadan began for our Muslim neighbors. Ramadan is a period of 29 to 30 days of fasting. Muhammad was the founding prophet of Islam, and many Jewish teachings were incorporated into Muhammad's message. The fourth of 5 pillars of Islam is fasting. The word for fasting in Arabic is som, equivalent to the Hebrew tzom, which means literally a fast. Early on in Muhammad's life, when he lived in Medina, his followers engaged in a required fast called Ashura on the 10th day of the month of Muharram. That is exactly equivalent to the Jewish fast day on the 10th day of the 7th month of Tishrei, which is our Yom Kippur. Islamic tradition teaches this in the Quran. The Prophet said, comparing his exodus from the years of persecution in Makkah to the Jewish exodus from the oppression in Egypt, and I quote, "We are closer to Musa than you are." Musa is Moses. Thus he fasted on that day and commanded Muslims to fast on that day. As Islamic tradition evolved, Muhammad received the revelation of the Quran over the month of Ramadan, and thus Ramadan became a month of fasting, learning, and repentance, the most important month. And yet Muhammad still kept the 10th of Muharram fast, a connection to Judaism, and so do his followers today. The Ramadan fast is a daylight fast that lasts the entire month. From dawn to sunset, Muslims are forbidden from eating, drinking, smoking, and really marital relations. Unintentional eating or drinking is forgiven, but intentional disruption of the fast is considered a serious violation. After sunset until sunrise, Muslim can eat, and the meals each night are festive. Fasting, the breaking of the fast, is a continuous cycle for 29 or 30 days. Now, how important is the fast? The Quran says fasting is required of you as it was commanded to those before you, that you will be conscientious. Commanded to those before you refers to the Jews. The month of Ramadan is the one in which the Quran was revealed as guidance for humanity, clear guidance and redemption, so whoever among you is present that month should fast. End of quote from the Quran. Ramadan fast has deep spiritual significance for the Muslim. Ramadan combines discipline with personal introspection and repentance. The Quran states, of great benefit to Muslims in Ramadan is sincere repentance, turning to Allah, beseeching Him for forgiveness and looking deep into ourselves to evaluate how we conduct our lives. And one of Allah's apostles said, whoever observes fast during the month of Ramadan out of sincere faith, hoping to attain Allah's rewards, then all his past sins will be forgiven. Ramadan seeks to facilitate repentance, as does Yom Kippur. So what is my point? Judaism and Islam are parallel traditions. Judaism, in fact, is closer to Islam than Judaism is to Christianity. Yom Kippur and Ramadan are spiritual twins. They share so much. It is a shame that the similarities of Judaism and Islam are not properly celebrated and affirmed. The world would be a safer place. Certainly, the Middle East would be. For the Jews, this fast of Ramadan reminds us of the power of ancient rituals and beliefs. And here is the irony. Islam's tradition of fasting was acquired from the Jews. And now, 1,500 years later, it's worth asking, what do the Muslims see and experience in fasting that some Jews don't? What can we learn from them? That is what interfaith engagement is about. That was my job at Rockhurst. That's any time when people of two faiths really seriously talk to each other about their traditions, without compromise, without filtering it, really speak to each other. So here is my challenge to our community. Really, Islam's challenge to our community. Ramadan this year, being 6 months away from Yom Kippur, allows us to take another look at fasting in our tradition. Perhaps it is much more relevant than we thought. And here is my fantasy. That on Yom Kippur afternoon this fall, our sanctuary will be filled with hungry and thirsty Reformed Jews. Some a little groggy, others with a caffeine withdrawal headache, some a little cranky, some drifting off. Some lost in the beauty of the Yom Kippur melodies. I believe if this happens, our congregation will feel different. It will have a level of significance and depth and spirituality that it has never had before. That is my challenge. Let us not underestimate what that hunger and thirst would signify for our religious community. Isn't it ironic and wonderful that our Muslim friends have something to teach us that we taught them centuries ago? What a blessing we receive when we take seriously our own tradition and engage seriously in the traditions of our neighbors. The most common greeting during Ramadan is Ramadan Mubarak. It essentially means blessed Ramadan or happy Ramadan. A Shabbat Shalom and Ramadan Mubarak to all Jews and Muslims on this sacred night. May we find inspiration about our own traditions and our engagement with people of all faiths. That truly would be God's blessing for us. Shabbat Shalom.